Welcome back. I am so excited that you have joined me again in the Aligned Womb, Aligned You podcast. I'm Kate Nagai, and I am your host and womb guide on this journey. I'm here to help you to lean into the language of your menstrual cycle so that you can align yourself and awaken and activate to your womb wisdom to live the most inspired life. I am so excited to jump into this episode and to dive into today's topic. So let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. So we are now entering into October. October is Menopause Awareness Month, and I really do feel like this is a topic that needs to be explored a lot more and talked about a lot more. It's kind of like one of those another transitions in women's life that we kind of gloss over or we don't talk about and we silently suffer. And we try to navigate through Google searches and we really just sit in kind of the discomfort of the horrible stories we've been told from our mothers, our aunts, those people in our life, the community, about how horrible and horrendous menopause is. And menopause is such an important transition. Like it is such a magical transition. So this October, for the next few weeks, I really want us to have a focus on menopause, what's happening, how we can reframe our thinking, and how we can come home to our body. Now, one of the biggest things to know is that menopause, when we use the term menopause, we are referring to this time when we're going through transition, right? Some people refer to it as the transition time. Some people use the word menopause to mean like now they're post their bleed days. Menopause is in fact just a one-day occurrence. We have perimenopause, which is the 8 to 10 years leading up to the actual event of menopause. This time during perimenopause is when we see these subtle fluctuations start to happen in our hormones, where we start to see the transitions and the changes happening in our cycle and in our body. And a lot of times we don't even connect this to a hormonal change. We just feel like things are shifting in our body and we really don't understand why. So perimenopause, even perimenopause can be broken up into a few different stages, but perimenopause is this long duration of 8 to 10 years. So it's a really slow kind of drip and change. For some women, it can be quite quick. Some people, it can be happening in 2 years if you're going into early menopause and it's triggered by some kind of medical event in your body. Now, menopause is that day, that significant day where we have officially haven't had a bleed in 12 months. Then once we haven't had a bleed in 12 months, we can say, okay, we've actually transitioned into menopause. That very next day, we are now into post-menopause. This is the life after menopause. What I want to talk and explore about today in our discussion is how perimenopause, so those years of those hormonal changes leading up to the event of menopause, really mirror that of our PMS. And I think this will help so many women really start to feel a little bit, I don't want to say more comfortable, but feel like this isn't out of their control because there's this awareness that's happening in the body. We're starting to understand why things are happening or starting to be able to create shifts in our lifestyle, our behaviors, the way we approach our health, knowing that it is very much this mirroring of what we've been living cyclically each month, well, since we got our first bleed. So if we look at it, the life cycle, like a woman's life cycle, we hit puberty and then we slowly merge into like our late teens and our early 20s. This is really the energy of that maiden energy. This is the same as that follicular phase of what we would feel in our cycle of, that rising estrogen. And then as we get into those years where we're really grounding into our career, we're really grounding into building a family, perhaps, we're in this different shift. We kind of shift hormonally from having maybe irregular cycles or this new experience of feeling these hormones for the first time in our body to now all of a sudden establishing a rhythm. And this is very much like ovulation. If we look at our PMS or our luteal phase, that week or so before our period, This really represents this shift that we have when we're moving into perimenopause. If we think about it, perimenopause is really this time where we know who we are and we're starting to discern even more and get clarity on more on how we want to show up in the world, who it is we want to be. We really don't take any BS here. If we think of our PMS, that week before our period, this is the time when the hormones really shift from estrogen to progesterone. This is that time where estrogen, which is a very outward kind of hormone, it's kind of what makes us a little bit maybe more outgoing, versus our progesterone, which makes us a little bit more introverted. That shift of spending all our energy going outward with our energy, of wanting to be social, wanting to be connected to people, all of a sudden when that shift happens post-ovulation and we enter into the progesterone zone, this is where we have this shift of more internal, more introvertedness, more self-awareness of what it is that we need. There's this downturn where we no longer want to perform. We no longer want to be readily available to everybody else's needs. This is kind of our body shifting down to say, okay, let's take care of ourselves. Let's clean stuff up. Let's organize. Let's, start that harvest process so that we can go into our inner winter phase or our menstruation or our menopause phase. So often when we look at PMS, let's look at PMS or that luteal phase. I call it PMS because that resonates with so many of us because we feel these big emotions, we feel these big sensations in our body, and sometimes it feels like it's all out of our control. And so that is this shift. This is the shift of, fighting against what perhaps everybody else wants us to be, and our internal body saying, hey, wait a minute, but I want this, I need this. And so we go into this little bit of an inner war, perhaps, which is what I really do believe really flares up this PMS response in our body. So PMS, we can feel bloated, aka a little bit more heavier in weight, which is normal during our luteal phase. We weigh more during this week of our period. We can get really moody. We can have a lot of brain fog. We can feel really exhausted. Stress and overwhelmment can come more readily towards us, so we are more sensitive to stress. We often feel burnt out during this phase. We often are more sensitive to sounds or even all sensory. I know for myself, even during this week, touch, like a physical touch, like I just want boundaries. I want space. I don't want people coming into my personal space and touching me. And it's really hard with 3 kids sometimes because they always want to hug and connect. And it's this balancing act of like, okay, I'm your mom. I'm trying to give you some love and some care, but then it's like, okay, your time is up now. Now I need my body back. And so PMS is this time where we feel all of these really big internal shifts sometimes. And sometimes it can be period pains and, other flare-ups in the physical body that we might see, especially if we've been diagnosed with something like fibroids or endometriosis. Now, if we flip that now and mirror that to what women experience when they're in perimenopause, I think there's something like 38 known symptoms or documented symptoms that a woman can to go through. So it's not just hot flashes, which, by the way, we also feel in our PMS phase. If you've ever noticed, progesterone's a heating hormone. It makes us feel warmer. So when we hit perimenopause, we get these physical sensations like the night sweats. Here I'm having my perimenopause moment in a moment here of just brain fog clicking in. But we have these hot flashes that kick in. We have physical symptoms that really make us uncomfortable in our skin. But some other things that happen sometimes are things like weight gain, unexplained weight gain. Our metabolism completely shifts and it kind of throws us off kilter. And this has been a big one for me. This has been probably one of the hardest ones for me, is my body gaining weight, even though my diet hasn't changed. And then when I try to push myself harder in working out certain ways, my body retains even more weight because it's like, you're stressing me out a bit. So we get into that stress sensitivity as well. So We can have weight gain. We can have shifts in our metabolism or shifts in how it feels digestively when we eat certain foods. So more indigestion, more heartburn, things like that. We have brain fog. Brain fog is a big one. A little insider secret here. Last week, I flooded my laundry room, and my husband he says he wasn't mad, but I could tell he was definitely slightly irritated with me because he was like, you don't walk away from a running tap. But in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm multitasking. I'm going to fill up the sink for water to soak some clothes, and I'm just going to quickly go do this, and I'll come right back. And I completely forgot, and I flooded our house. So brain fog, it's a real thing. Losing your words mid-sentence sometimes, having an idea and then 2 seconds later forgetting it, losing your keys, misplacing things all the time. I remember my mom when she was going through perimenopause, it was in the later stages. To this day, we still can't find this gold chain that she put aside because she was going to give to my sister-in-law at Christmas. And she put it somewhere for safekeeping, and we have yet to ever find it again. So now the big joke was a joke for her, but now I use it for myself, is when you put something in a safe place that you will not lose it, you must take a picture of it on your phone so that way you remember where that safe place is, because you will not remember in perimenopause. The brain fog, it's a real big thing. Exhaustion, unexplained exhaustion sometimes that kicks in. This is a real thing. And it feels the same as how we can feel really depleted and low in energy as we do in our PMS week of our cycle. So all of this to say that if you're feeling like all these things are happening to me, my body's changing, my mind is changing, remember that this is just, our body has been priming us for this cycle after cycle after cycle for years now to prepare us for this. And really, at the end of the day, the biggest message that our body wants us to know is that this is a time for us. This is a beautiful, empowering time for us to reclaim who it is that we actually want, to set the boundaries that really allow us to grow and to have vitality. This is the time where it teaches us how to slow down, how to kind of marinate in the slower pace of life, how to really reflect on what it is that we want and what we need to let go of. And now all of this can be very uncomfortable, and I get that. But there's also so much magic in knowing that, like, I'm in the beginning of it, so I don't know if I can make this blanket claim right now because I'm only 43 right now. But to me, it feels like when I resist or when I try to act the way that I think I should act for the patterns that I've always been, like the person who people know me as, right? The daughter that my mom knows me as, or the wife that my husband knows me as, or the parent that I thought I was going to be in my head. The more that I try to push to be those things, which often puts me in a place where I'm constantly running and doing and not caring for myself. In fact, putting myself as the last person on the list for self-care or for nurturing or for just even to be seen, is when my body acts up the most. And so this has been a really big time for me to reevaluate who I am, reevaluate who I want to be, reevaluate my expectations on myself, not just mentally, but also physically. Like there's been this letting go of me going, is it okay that I'm not the same size I was before I had kids? And I know that may sound, what's the term I'm looking for? It may sound very egotistical, but there is this part of us as women that, we think that we can be the same shape and size throughout our whole life. And for some women, that might be the reality, but for most of us, that isn't. In fact, I just read in a book, which was an amazing book. It was called Second Spring by Kate Cardington. And in there, she says that in fact, we should probably be about 20 pounds heavier in our 40s than what we were in our 20s, or in our perimenopause phase versus when we were in our 20s. And when I read that, I was like, it was like a deep breath of going, oh, okay, right? This is my new shape. This is my new size. So how can I find more self-love knowing that this is me, right? And so, this is about really coming home to yourself and seeing what's important for you and looking at what it is that you want moving forward. What is it that your body, your soul, what is it that is kind of unfinished in your life? What is it that you need to kind of harvest in this last leg here before going into menopause? And here's the really crazy thing is that, all this discomfort that we feel during perimenopause, it's really our soul, our spirit, pushing us to discern and to set the boundaries and to get uncomfortable, to get clear about who it is that we are and who we want to be, is that once we hit menopause, everything shifts again. When we go into this post-menopause phase, our brain actually grows again. Our brain lights up again. There's the things that we were feeling symptomatically slowly just begin to disappear. And we get to redefine our life and who we are. Like if you look at women post-menopause, a lot of them are living their next life. They're living the next best life. They've hustled, they've pushed, they've built families, and now they're just enjoying life. This is why it's called the second spring post-menopause, is because there's this rebirth that kind of happens where you get to go back with a different lens and live your life through those phases again, but more in a spiritual or soulful way and less about the physical symptoms. And so anyways, a little offside there, but this time that feels so uncomfortable, what I'd put out to you right now as you're navigating this is asking yourself the bigger question of, why does this feel so uncomfortable? What is it about it that feels uncomfortable? What is it that I'm holding on to that in fact I really don't want to hold on to? What part of my story was my story, and who am I now wanting to show up as? And seeing that we can transform, we can shift. Perimenopause is really this beautiful time that's getting us to walk that tightrope, walk that line of exploring what was and what is, or what is going to be, and making us a little uncomfortable to give us the skills to start to ask for what it is that we want. Hey ladies, if you're feeling stuck in the cycle of burnout, overwhelm, and just feeling out of tune with your body, I've got something transformative for you. Introducing Cyclical, Reclaiming You. It's a 9-month program designed to help you tap into the power of your natural hormonal cycles and reclaim the balance in your life. Whether you're juggling a demanding career, motherhood, or just trying to make time for you, this program is about syncing your life with your body's natural rhythms to create more ease and joy. Over 9 months, you'll be guided through hormone hacks, sacred feminine practices, and deep wellness tools to help you not just survive, but to thrive. You'll learn how to balance your hormones, prevent burnout, and harmonize your feminine energy so you can show up as the most empowered self. Ladies, you don't have to keep running on empty. This is your time to reclaim your health, vitality, and the life that you deserve and have dreamed of. Head to the link in the show notes below for the Cyclical program and sign up today. And as an extra special bonus, for this round only of the Cyclical program, I am offering a discount of 50%. This is a one-time offer that will never happen again. So make sure you go in and click on the link in the show notes to get this one-time special offer. Join Cyclical, Reclaiming You, and start living with intention. You are so worth it. I think this is why a lot of women struggle sometimes, is because they spent the first half of their life giving to everybody else, which when you look at the menstrual cycle makes complete sense, right? The first half of our cycle is us being extroverted and really wanting to be connected and wanting to be a part of something bigger. The second half of our cycle and the second half of our life is really about us coming into our power, coming into a better grounded state of saying, this is about me now. This is my time to shine. And I think sometimes the symptoms or the resistance or the moodiness that we feel sometimes is in fact us being resentful that people are still asking stuff from us when we are trying to do something different, when we're trying to change and people are wanting us to stay in the box and we're trying to break free of that box, which is great because then now we can see our moodiness not as this thing that's outside of my control. Like, I don't know why I'm being so cranky. I don't know why I'm snapping at everyone. Where instead we can be like, wait a minute, I reflected on this and I'm actually snapping at everyone because you're wanting me to be somebody I was, but not somebody who I really want to grow into, who I want to blossom into. Like this is the caterpillar breaking out of the cocoon. This is the gooiness. In fact, I don't remember where I heard this, but if you were to slice open a cocoon that a caterpillar is in, before it actually breaks out to be that butterfly, it is complete mush. So the caterpillar puts all this wrapping around it to create this cocoon, which is kind of metaphorically exactly what perimenopause is we're trying to wrap ourselves up so that we can have a moment to figure out who we want to be so that we can actually, in menopause, bust out of the shell and be that butterfly. But if you were to cut us open, we're nothing but a bunch of goop. We're trying to transform. We're trying to figure this out. It's messy. It's not always simple and easy. And I think the more that we understand this, the more we have self-compassion for ourselves, and the more we're able to really advocate and ask for that same compassion from those in our life. Not everyone's going to understand us, and nor does everyone need to understand us. Like there's this beautiful moment in perimenopause for me where I used to fear rejection a lot. And now I'm like, I'm okay if people don't like me. I'm okay if I'm not for everybody. And it's like this beautiful, empowering state of going, no, this is who I am. And this is what I have to offer. And if that's not what you need, I'm not taking it personally. That's great that you know what your needs are. And great that you know what you're looking for. And that can get really uncomfortable when it's with people that we're a little saddened to lose in our life. But there's also something that's so empowering of knowing that we're clearing the path for the right people to be in. And sometimes it's just a little uncomfortable for those in our life to get on board with the new version of ourselves. But there's a beautiful turning point when it all kind of clicks. And I can say this even for my own personal life, in my relationship, in my marriage. It wasn't comfortable probably for 2 years of me starting to say no and to starting to set boundaries and say what it was I wanted and needed. But now there's this beauty in that we can have these really deep, soulful conversations where I can really articulate, this is my needs, right? Just like how you're going through this, I'm going through it, but it looks like this. And we are changing so much from who we were when we first met. And we are now we're both in a place of transition, which is kind of cool that I'm going through this perimenopause transition, but he's also going through his own transition. And we're walking side by side each other as we're both navigating it and trying to figure out who the other is. And we're watching the other person explore that without judgment, without needing to change it. And this isn't something that I think always happens, sometimes because we don't know what's happening. We don't understand what's happening. And so when we don't understand, it makes us uncomfortable that we are being this way or we are needing these things. And we don't understand why we're asking for what we're asking for. And there's so much clarity that when we get into understanding the menstrual cycle and understanding our hormones and how every hormone, it truly does impact every system in the body, and how we've been practicing this. It's like a recital that we've been doing over and over and over again for this big event of this life transition, that we now get to take this practice, this awareness that we've created, and apply it to this big life transformation that's happening. And it can be really beautiful. It's still hard. It's still uncomfortable at times. But I can honestly say that I love that I know why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And if I don't know, that I have the ability to sit down, pause, reflect, and really discern, what is this about? Is this about me and what I actually want in my life for next level? Or is this about something else that I need to work through? And I don't know. It's been fun. It's been exciting. And I really do think that it can be this way for so many people. In fact, I did a talk a few months ago around perimenopause and around the life cycles and how this mimics our menstrual cycle. And one woman in the crowd was just like, I think if I would have known this, if I would have been able to explore this and communicate this with my husband, I don't know if I would have got divorced. Now we're on our separate paths and we're all good. But there's a potential that we could have stayed together if we both understood this and could hold space for it. And I really truly believe that's the case. I'm not saying that, by knowing this, every marriage will be saved, but I think sometimes the gooiness of uncertainty that's in that cocoon as we're transforming can be uncomfortable if we don't have someone helping us to guide us and to create clarity, or to help us to explore our feelings, our thoughts, our sensations in our body, and to effectively communicate that with people in our lives. So yeah, this episode, I just really wanted to help bring some reflection and some awareness around how what you've experienced for years in your menstrual cycle as PMS, start to reflect when you're feeling this on an everyday basis, if you're in your 40s or if you're in perimenopause, of like, this is feeling like it's happening all the time. What is this signaling? What is it that needs to transform? Is something needing to transform? Am I feeling grouchy because I actually, in fact, don't want to do this or be this way or to have these people in my life? Know that this is a time of such great clarity, and clarity can be uncomfortable because it means that we have to clean house sometimes. So I hope this helps in bringing a new reflection, a new way of seeing perimenopause. And we'll go deeper into menopause and perimenopause over the next few weeks. But I hope that this is just a little bit of an insight as to why we might be feeling the way we're feeling in our 40s, if it's been a rocky road. Because trust me, it was definitely a rocky road in the beginning for me. But now I'm really excited. I still want my period here. I'm not ready to say goodbye to it yet. I like having that monthly cyclical pattern still alive in me. But there is something really beautiful about exploring this with a bigger lens, looking at it from the lens of my life cycle and what it is that I need. And let me tell you, this year has been one of great transformation. I closed down every program that I had created in the She Revival. I really got clear and discerned, do I want to continue to teach this stuff? How do I want to teach? What is it that I want to put out in the world? And so everything that was for She Revival is now gone. And I have created 2 programs that I am so in love with and so excited about teaching and providing. Like these 2 programs are what's taking me to the finish line. It's these 2 programs that I want to leave as my legacy of putting out in the world and helping women. And in case if you haven't been aware or you haven't been receiving my emails, if you're not on my email list, My brand new, this is my signature program. This is the big one that's 9 months long. Is called Cyclical Reclaiming You. And it's all about revolutionizing the way that we see our hormones and our cycle so that we can start to get clarity and do these practice runs into these bigger life cycles and starting to see how all these cycles interact in our life and what we can do to create more hormonal balance, but also how we can use our hormone awareness to create deeper connection with self, how we can bring in feminine practices to awaken parts of us that have been closed off, that have been perhaps silenced because of trauma, and how we can start to really reclaim who we want to be. And then my other little program, which is more of like a little short self-study, is just a 3-month program called Living in Flow, which really goes into how to hormone hack your work life, your parenting, and your relationships. Because I think those 3 pillars, especially when you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s, these are the 3 pillars where we are really digging in deep and we are bumping heads sometimes with. And so how can we use our hormone awareness and our cycle awareness and start to create simple hormone hacks to find more ease, to reduce burnout and overwhelm, and to really communicate what it is that we need. So, and that Living in Flow course is included in part of the cyclical. It's a bonus that you get in the cyclical. So you get both when you join cyclical. So I'm leaving that with you today. Perimenopause and PMS, they're really 2 sides of the same coin. And when we start to rinse and repeat and really practice owning in our skills to come home to ourselves and to come home to our needs when we're feeling that flare up of PMS, this is us really practicing the same skill set that we need as we move and navigate in through perimenopause. So I hope that helps. And then one last shout out here for anyone that's listening right now. I'm also on the board of directors for the Menopause Mission. This was another big milestone for me this year as I was asked to become a board member, and I'm actually the vice president on the board of directors. And we are having an event with 3 amazing experts where you get to sit in front of them and ask all your questions. You get to put into little groups that you are in small groups in front of each 3 presenters or experts, and you get to share your story. You get to have a voice. You get to ask the big questions and get some really good resources and information. So this is happening October 20th in Edmonton, if you're in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And it's being held at the Doubletree Hotel in the West End. It's going to be a full day from 9:30 until 4. And it's just going to be amazing. It's absolutely going to be wonderful. So early bird tickets are on sale right now. Those will change to regular price on Saturday. So you want to get in there and get your early bird tickets. The links for cyclical, the links for this are all going to, or for the Menopause Mission are all going to be in the show notes below. So go and check those out if you are interested. And then as always, get curious, stay in tune with your body, and trust that all these subtle sensations, feelings, thoughts, they're all leading you to connect deeper with self so that you can come into alignment. And that alignment often comes into aligning with our hormones, with our womb space, and our cycle. Are you excited about aligning to your cycle? If so, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast and like the episode if it really resonated with you. Until next time, remember, womb wisdom equals connection to self, which ultimately equals inspired living.